Hi everybody, it's Matt Siddell. I'm joined today by Mike Bristow from CrowdProperty. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hi Matt, great to be here.
So I've got a long list of things I want to cover today. I want to talk to you about the economy, the market, property. I want to talk to you about how businesses need to adapt in order to survive. I think we need to talk about the importance of innovation. And the first question I want to ask you is CrowdProperty still lending?
Very much so. Loads aren't, and we are. And we're very proud to be.
When you say loads aren't, is that just because they're all busy fighting fires, or have you heard any horror stories out there?
Yeah, I mean, people's wholesale funding lines have been cut.
That's not good. Like they're on site and now their bank's like, oh, sorry, we're not going to give you any more money.
Well, yeah. There's the facilities that they've been offered, and then there's the drawdowns, and people are pulling out of those. And this is where reputations are made or broken.
I've never had that happen to me, but that is like squeaky bum time in a big way. That would be horrible. I mean, what do people do in those situations?
They come and speak to us, have a rant, we calm them down, and then we work out how to solve it for them.
Okay, but how often do you actually take over a site that's halfway through? That's not a good thing, is it?
We're running a couple right now.
Are you?
And so we're about to take over the funding of that. Now, it's not taking over the contractors and the construction staff are not changing. Okay, that's when it gets really tough. Okay, because that's the last thing you want on your site.
Okay.
We are backing out the previous funders who wouldn't draw down and working with that borrower to crack on with a good project.
Well, I mean, I bet the developer's pleased with that, because that's really, well, not just the developer, but also presumably the contractors owed money and the developer's on the hook, and it's just horrendous.
Yeah, it's worst case scenario for anyone. And I'd love to name names, but I'm not going to.
No, you can't go down that path. But is it happening a lot? Is it happening a lot?
We're seeing it quite a few times.
All right. So I want to ask you,
we're seeing our normal application rate north of 100 million a month. We're seeing a load of people who've had their facilities pulled before starting, and we've got people who have been had their drawdowns cut. So we're seeing a hell of a lot more demand.
Okay. How do you think all this is going to affect your business from what it was in February to what it will be like in February next year and beyond? How do you think your business is going to change?
Well, for us, it's going to change massively because the opportunity has just opened up even more. We've built a brilliant lender at CrowdProperty, and now we've built that off many years of reputation, and we are maintaining our reputation and enhancing our reputation through lending and supporting our borrowers and working with our borrowers right now, and others are destroying theirs. It hurts me to say, but this is playing out quite well in this market.
Yeah, I've used it as a good excuse just to do a bunch of things that I've wanted to do for ages, whether it's moving stuff around or changing it about. Like, I knew I needed to do it before. Like, you and I have talked for ages about having a Qandor investors group. Well, we're rolling one out this month, and it'll be totally online, but you can come to the events if you want, when we have events, when we're allowed out again. But like, everything should have been like this. When I started Qandor in the first place, it should have all been online. And if you want to come to a physical event, then come to a physical event if you can. But just because you live in Dubai or New York or Hong Kong doesn't mean you can't join the club now.
But there's the international bit, but even local people. Yeah? I mean, if you're traveling to an event, it's before you even start, it's half an hour in London, probably an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're losing 2 hours of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. The efficiency in this. Now,
yeah.
The problem is that people like us are using that time to work rather than necessarily spend more time with our family. But
that's not entirely true. We've had Nick Cowell on 2 groups with us. Yesterday we had a really pretty serious hedge fund manager join us from his office in Dubai. Like, he would never have taken the time off work to come to one of our events physically to tell us what's going on. And because we made it easy, it was like 35 people on that call finding out. So you don't have to listen to a reporter telling you what's going on in the markets. You've got a guy who is like one of the best paid people in the world, who's got a team of people who are really well paid, telling you exactly what's going on. So it's a great excuse to innovate, don't you think?
The connectivity is just outstanding now.
Yeah.
And look, if even my mother is playing ukulele on Zoom as a baby Zoomer, the term that's been coined, then my God, it's been adopted.
Yeah, we just reviewed. We're trying to think of something better than Zoom, or find something better than Zoom that we can use And we looked at a list. There's like a list of 16 options. We don't know which one to review first. So I think it's a blessing in disguise. Look, we've had a few people who have had to leave Qandor, and I'm sure you've got a few developers who are struggling. But actually, we've had many more people inquire about the club, and they are joining. Some of them are stuck at home because the kids are still off school. But it's like a bit of a change of the guard.
It entirely comes down to the attitude of founders and the teams behind businesses like Qandor, like CrowdProperty. It's do good in good times and do brilliantly in bad times. I don't mean brilliantly by performance as an output. I mean do the right things as an input.
Oh no! You can even then you could still be losing. Just as long as you're losing less than everyone else, you're winning.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, that's the opportunity here, and it's not only that, but there's that reputation share as well. And if you work hard on that.
Reputation is everything.
Yeah.
I'm worried about my reputation with my team a bit because I've been stuck in this house for a bit too long. It's been raining for a while. I haven't been out for a few days, but it's the weekend tomorrow. And who knows, I might go from my study to the living room as a treat. But no, I think reputation is really important right now.
Yeah.
And how you perform.
It's everything. And it's never been more important.
Yeah.
Both into this, but also what you do now, okay, has the lasting impression. I mean, just think about, what's the first thing that comes into your head if I mention RBS?
Failure.
Probably the price selling in 08, 09, yeah?
Yeah.
That's reputation right there.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Have you heard what Burberry are doing? They're going to be making masks. Everyone's going to be walking around with Burberry over their face. I'm going to buy you a Burberry mask, Mike. I'll buy you a Burberry mask. And I'll emboss my initials on the front of it. MS, which is actually an illness. That's the last thing you want. But I'll do my middle initial on there as well, MLS. Yeah. All right, so what's the prognosis for the economy?
It's bad right now. We'll see a massive drop. And that drop will need to be stuffed full of government cash.
That's only plugging a gap, though, isn't it? What's going to happen after you've got a load of balance sheets that are all destroyed?
Look, there are some good fundamentals. There are a lot of better fundamentals than 08, 09, and the recovery will be quicker than 08, 09, definitely.
Yeah.
The disparity of effect on different industries will be brutal for some, huge opportunities for others.
My brother's a BA captain. 12,000 out of 32,000 are going to get made redundant. I think they've got like 4,000 pilots. 1 in 4 is going to go. It's horrendous.
But also, yeah, exactly. But also they're reviewing their strategy right now, and they're thinking, well, do we pull the plug on Gatwick as a hub? Companies are really challenging themselves right now. Barclays saying, do I have 7,000 people in an office anymore?
Yeah.
This is challenging people, okay? But the right approach here is to challenge yourself in your businesses right now. What are the implications? What are the options? What are the scenarios? Suddenly, the scenarios that you would have mapped last year about best case to worst case, it certainly didn't have a global pandemic in, unless you're Bill Gates. Yeah. So you've got to stretch your thinking about what could go on.
I think you can count on one hand the things that are most important. Adapting to survive, innovating, using it as an excuse to make a load of changes that you wanted to make anyway. Just make them all now. I hope this crisis drags on a little bit because I've still got a few more changes I want to make. You've got to think of it like that. But then coming out the other side and getting after the opportunities, like filling Qandor with investors. We're going to go on a big campaign this month and and get all the investors into the club because then they can do deals with good people in a trusted network. And who knows, they might fund 1 or 2 CrowdProperty deals as well.
Indeed.
You like that, didn't you?
Setting records. So, but also, I mean, don't forget there's this pandemic on the economy, but don't forget there's the overarching factor around EU trade negotiations. Okay. And then there's bigger picture stuff, such as aging population and climate change. Okay. Now, I think coming out of this, okay, what will definitely be the case, okay, is that people will take climate change as a real scenario much more seriously. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody saw this. This is a black swan. This is crazy. Okay. But it happened.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of things that cultural changes. So appreciation for family time, appreciation for outdoor space, especially if you haven't actually got it. Appreciation for the environment. Remember the weather up until this week was beautiful. In fact, it's clearing up again now, and thank God too, because I could really do with some sunshine. But I hope so. And I think that'll impact property prices as well, don't you? In certain areas.
Yeah, definitely. And how that plays out, we'll see as discussed. So.
All right. So, how's your team performing, working remotely and everything? That must be quite difficult.
I mean, really good. I mean, we use Zoom a lot anyway, because I travel a lot. I'm speaking around the place, and I need to keep in close contact with our team. We've got great video conference facilities in our office, so we were very used to it.
Is anyone in the office?
Everyone's got,
Your office is empty, right?
Sorry?
Your office is empty at the moment.
Yeah, office is empty. We haven't been about that. We're entirely remote. So about 2 weeks before the lockdown, we'd split teams. So each team was split into two, half working from home, half working in the office. That's just a risk management process that we think is sensible, part of our business continuity activity. And then we disbanded entirely following an extraordinary board meeting that we held, and we made some policy changes. And then, look, the team's working brilliantly remotely, and I am convinced, I'm absolutely convinced that commercial real estate will be a totally different kettle of fish when we go back. And I mean, obviously, pubs and restaurants and retail in particular are going to see challenging times. But the office space, you've got Barclays CEO coming out saying, look, do I really think we're going to return to a time where we have 7,000 people in an office? Yes, broadly, but I think the trend will be away from that. We've got an office with a capacity of about probably 45. We've got a team of 32. I'm looking at that now saying, happy days, this office is going to last us for a number of years, because we'll be able to be a team of 60, 70, 75, 80 by the time that office is too small. Okay, so you're going to see a drop in demand of office space, definitely on a office space need per worker. Yeah. Because this has really kicked virtual communication into the mainstream.
As like I said, there's nothing like a tough, challenging time to force you to make some changes that are for the good. We've been doing it ourselves. I'm sure you have as well. How long do you think? What's your forecast on how long you think this is all going to drag on for?
Oh well,
how long's a piece of string?
There's loads of dimensions to that. Yeah, there's lockdown, there's economy, and housing market. So we can break it down like this. And it's always dangerous going on record on anything, especially something on the internet.
Just say between 1 and 12 months.
It'll be thrown back in our faces.
It's got to unwind quite gradually, though, right? It's not like suddenly the lockdown's going to be lifted. We all go back to work. It'll gradually unwind.
It has to.
Then there'll be a second wave. There's got to be a second wave.
Definitely. The government are in an impossible balance situation here. It's impossibly difficult to balance the safety of the population versus the wealth, versus the lifestyle, the wealth, the economy. It's an impossible balance. So, as you say, it will phase back in. Okay. Now, the really interesting thing is sort of, well, what is going to be the impact on the economy? And the good news is that we've sort of seen a period of uncertainty over a number of years because of Brexit, political leadership, etc. Okay. And the other good thing is that this wasn't caused by the banks or financial markets and the financial system as a whole. So this is a whole basically that will be V-shaped or U-shaped in recovery. Yeah. And I firmly believe there will be a strong bounce back and catch up. Now, what do I mean by that? It's not like when pubs reopen, people will catch up on 6 months of drinking in pubs.
I hope so.
It might.
We'll do if I have anything to do with it.
There'll be some answer, but there is a natural churn and cadence to life and economy around things like car replacement, moving house and things like that, and there will be a catch up in this period. I believe it's going to be V-shaped.
Really? I'm going to challenge you on that, because I think there's going to be a shitload of unemployment, and it's going to take quite a while for them to find new jobs and get trained up again.
Unemployment is the big factor here. And we'll come back to that about the housing market, because I think that's where it really, really sort of matters. But the issue is that V or U or whatever it is, basically being filled in, by government debt, and how do you get out of that? You either tax more, that's not going to be popular.
No.
You have more austerity, now that's not going to be popular. It wasn't popular last time, and now people are going to say, well, what do you mean we're going to spend even less on healthcare? That's not going to be a vote winner. You could, as a government, you could default on that debt. That's not going to happen with the UK. Or you can roll it over, keep rolling it over, grow, and hope some inflation sort of helps you along the way. And I firmly believe, that latter is very possible. It's classic Keynesian economics. Invest, spend now. And I think one of the key areas that's really relevant to us a lot is that a lot of that is going to be spent on building. And there's going to be a lot of private supply and public supply of capital. To whether it's infrastructure like HS2, that's going to move forward with pace now. Or catching up on not building enough homes for so long. For decades we've needed to build 300,000 homes. We built 200,000. And this year we'll probably build 100,000. And just to put that in context, each home that is built or isn't built in the economy is worth about £100,000 to £200,000 of spend on labour, materials, services, etc. in the economy. 100,000 is worth 10 to 20 billion pounds of money ticking around the economy. That's serious.
Tax revenues.
We're going to enter this era where probably the best place for a lot of government debt capital, but also interestingly, I think some private capital will follow this in. A lot of private capital will be on building, and that's exciting. That really is exciting. We've got decades to catch up on.
Are you seeing much distress in the market? Are lots of people coming to you needing bailing out?
No, not yet. So on the construction front, the government made it clear on the 31st of March that building and construction can continue. Massive caveat, as long as you can do it safely and you protect the NHS, etc. So site operating procedures really important. And there are loads and loads of ways you can manage that, but productivity would definitely be a bit lower. Some closed down their sites, and that's probably because the site operating procedures that needed to be put in place were very complex. But those bigger companies, those bigger house builders are reopening now because they've defined those. They worked out how to do it properly. Or they knew how to do it properly, but they had to document and making sure that it was implemented at scale in an appropriate way. And they made the right decisions. So sites, especially smaller sites, especially non-London sites where transport is less of an issue, and they have and almost our entire book has continued building, which is great because it has been a place where economic productivity can continue, and that is a responsibility of our sector, to continue. Our responsibility is to keep building, keep the spend flowing in the economy.
Well, it's obviously a good thing if we can carry on and we can do it safely. One of the guys in the club, I won't name any names because it's irrelevant, but he had a site, probably about £8 million worth of development that he was about to finish. It was the final day. One of the guys ended up in intensive care because he caught a virus. Whole site's got to be cleaned, shut down. Part of me thinks the reason they kept the construction sites going was because all these guys and girls who are self-employed were falling between the cracks and not qualifying for grants and small business relief loans and these sorts of things, and they kind of had to keep it going. But also they're kind of low risk as well. Like fit young men in their 30s and 40s are not as statistically vulnerable as other demographics. So
but it's far bigger than that. Yeah, it's like the whole building and construction ecosystem. That yes, is the developer through to the financier, through to the labourer,
the suppliers,
the guy who drives the lorry, the wholesalers, the merchants, etc. The ecosystem is enormous and intertwined, and some of those have definitely been compromised. Builders and merchants are opening up again, which is great. This is a key area where the economy needs to be open up, needs to keep spending, and needs to be pushing product out, because there are two important reasons. There's economic spend and productivity, but there's also not exacerbating this ongoing undersupply issue. Okay, and that's critical. That's critical. But that sort of brings it a bit into, I guess, the property market, which is kind of we're all pretty interested in that. Yeah. So. What's my view? I'm going to hesitate from saying it's a house view. I'm going to say my view on the market, and I'll reflect a bit on what other people are saying as well. But first and foremost, there hasn't been 10 years of massive capital growth. Okay, going into the property market. That's what happened in 08, 09. Okay, and the current levels actually. It drives me crazy every time that people talk about nominal property values. Okay? Nominal values are irrelevant. You've got to inflation adjust value growth. Okay. Now, nominal values are good because your debt is always nominal. Yeah. But real values are the real value growth in housing. And on averages are dangerous. Yeah. But on average, we're about 8% below 2006 prices, okay, in real terms, inflation adjusted. Okay.
That sounds quite cheap. When you put it like that, it sounds very cheap.
We've seen zero real growth since 2015. Okay, again on average. So that's interesting context to say, well, it's very different to a massive 10-year run. First and foremost. Secondly, it comes down to what are the other key differences with 08? In 08, lots of people wanted to sell, okay, and nobody wanted to buy or could buy because there was no debt market at all. And that lasted years because there's a fundamental systemic issue with debt capital supply in the debt system.
Yeah.
So they are very, very different circumstances to here and now. Because whilst I say nobody's lending at the moment apart from us, there are a few, and a few are starting to tick back. We're seeing a few refinance. There's something like 300. It's an enormous amount of, I think it's 300 billion or something of transactions that are on pause at the moment. Enormous values.
2 million in a month wouldn't be a busy month for you or anything.
They'll come through just on hold. Overall, it's built up. And so, this is such a nonsensical, counterintuitive point. But the nationwide house price index that was published today, so 1st of May, said April saw the highest house price growth, annualized house price growth, since February 2017.
That's because the lenders are obviously just a tiny slice of the market, and
right,
yeah,
and month on month, 0.7% up. Now it's obviously nonsense. Yeah. Now, why? It's not nonsense. They are data facts. That is based on mortgage approvals, and 80% of those were pre-COVID-19. Okay, but what that says is that it was underlying confidence in the property market.
No. Those stats are from like February, because people committed to deals in February, which was after the election in December, and everything was looking rosy. And now they've gone to get the mortgages, and now it's coming out into the woodwork. But you're right; it's absolutely rubbish.
Yeah. So 20% of those were post-lockdown. Okay.
Pre-lockdown.
So that's obviously.
Did you say 20% were post-lockdown or pre-lockdown?
Only 20% were post-lockdown.
Yeah. Okay.
80% of that data is from
right.
pre-lockdown. So we'll see that shift massively, but it'll be on next to no transactions. So we won't be able to read what's happening in the market reliably because transactions are going to drop 80%. They dropped 90% in China.
Yeah.
But if you look at what people are saying, Savills came out just the other day, end of April, and they said we've run 3 scenarios, and we'll tell you what we said a couple of months ago, and then we've run a best case scenario of COVID-19 and a worst case scenario of COVID-19. Okay. All of those equaled 15% growth over 5 years.
Right.
All of them. But the shape was very different.
Sure.
Yeah. So in 2020, they said a number of months ago it will grow by 1% value growth on average. And they think on the best case scenario it'll be minus 5% this year, and worst case scenario minus 10%. And then it bounced back at a different rate. What we won't know is how that plays out for because of low transaction volume.
I think, what do you think businesses need to do right now in order to survive? I've got loads of thoughts on this, but what are your thoughts?
This really goes down to moving into survival mode. And I work with a lot of, we're a burgeoning sort of growth stage business, but I work with a lot of early startups as well, especially in PropTech.
Of course you do.
And you've just got to apply that mentality. It's all about cash preservation.
Yeah.
Suddenly move away from worrying about, right, what's my P&L doing? What's my, what can I depreciate? What can I, amortize over a number of years, over another months or years? What's my, all the policies? It's like, no, what is my cash balance at the beginning of the month? And what is my cash balance at the end of the month?
Yeah.
Okay. And board conversations everywhere should, and if they haven't, it's scary, okay, just be focusing on cash on a month-to-month basis and forecasting that really well and giving yourself as much cash runway as possible.
So that's the oxygen to keep the business alive. But then long-term, businesses have got to innovate, right? If you don't innovate now, you're toast.
Yeah, I mean, we had an extended board meeting discussion on our strategy in February, okay, and we did a load of work in putting into that strategy, and that conversation has totally changed the tactics right now, and then in a couple of months' time we'll bring that out again just to fresh, okay, because stuff has changed, a lot has changed. We actually see a huge opportunity in this market because people have pulled out of lending. Well, we're going to do a hell of a lot more on a very risk managed basis. Okay.
What would be a big month for crowd property in a normal economic circumstances?
5 million in lending.
5 million a month.
But we'll be well north of that by the end of 2020.
Yeah. You're on a steep part of the curve.
There's a huge opportunity to seize on it. So I think. To answer your question, what should businesses be focusing on right now? Well, it's easy to get caught up in I said tactics around cash flow is critical, okay, and then it's really giving yourself some thinking time whilst you've got team working on operations, okay, to think about my planning, my research, my strategy, because the new norm strategy will be different. Work out how it's different. Do the thinking now. I'm actually finding it really powerful to be out of the office, away from the team, keeping communicating with the team. That's critically important. There's a human factor here around businesses. It's so important, and Zoom is helping a lot on that. Okay, but locking myself away and saying, right, okay, I can't have someone tap me on the shoulder or come up to my desk and ask me a question. Brilliant. I'm going to use that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Give myself the thinking time to build my position, to play the chess game. Okay. That drives the business forward. And that I'm so looking forward to getting back into the office with the team because it's such a brilliant team at CrowdProperty. Okay. But I know one thing I'll really miss. Okay. Is that separated time, where I'm really able to just challenge myself, thrash things out, speak one-on-one to our non-exec directors, challenging ourselves, speaking one-on-one to the other directors, saying, I'm having this thought, what do you think? Do you want to mull on it? They mull on it. We have a debate, etc. All of these things, okay, it's great. It really is. But and probably extending that a little bit to some of the people in the club, especially around the developers. What I'd be really looking at is so what's going to change here as a result? What's the demand profile going to change? Where are people? Do people want different things now? Is there going to be relaxation in PD? Where are my next angles coming from?
Yeah.
So I could be ahead of the game, right ahead of the curve, okay, and then start building those scenarios, saying, right, if that relaxes, then great. If that happens, or if I see that spike in demand, I can execute on it. Okay? And part of that is having the right team on board.
So, what do you think the prospect is?
In what respect?
Well, where are the opportunities?
Where are the opportunities? I think I think any market like this favors people with cash.
Yep.
And I think don't underestimate cash to move fast and a team to move fast. Okay. There are definitely transactions to be made out there. Okay. I don't think, and this is slightly counter to what a lot of people are saying, I don't think there'll be deals of the century. Okay. And the reason for that is there were a lot of, in 2008, 2009, there were a lot of sellers and not many buyers. Okay. And the sellers needed to sell. A load of the sellers were RBS receivers because they decided to repossess everything. But how many really motivated sellers are there in this market? That's a question. So I wouldn't expect or assume there'll be deals of the century out there. There could be the odd one, and it's worth rummaging for it. Okay? But there'll be quite a few people looking for something. I think that there's. If you think about resi, zooming in on property and zooming in probably on resi, I think there's an interesting debate about what impact does this scenario have on demand. So, for example, as we said earlier, if there's less office space per worker, does some office value, commercial property value, actually get transferred to residential? There's value in extra facility, extra space, study, demand for that.
I think zone 3 and the areas where you can get in and out of London in particular, and other parts of the country as well, obviously, it's not exclusively London, but anywhere that's got good transport links into the city, but you're far enough out that you can have a bigger house with a garden and everything, property prices there are gonna spike a little bit. You'd be able to see it.
I agree somewhat. I agree there'll be a premium placed on garden and outside space.
That's what,
Definitely. It's like, I feel very lucky and relieved that we've got garden, especially with 4 kids. But actually, what, is commuter belt the best place? Or is it actually, is this going to just move out of cities? Okay. Is this going to just change global urbanization trend? It could well do. I could very easily be running my team and the business living in the Cotswolds. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, loads of people can be in that situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So how is that going to change city centre demand? How is that going to change London demand? How is that going to change commuter demand? There will still be need for human interaction and human presence and all of that, but that need will diminish. There'll be more flexible working. There'll be more hot desking, etc. But there will be an interesting demand profile outside of London, I think.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch it unfold.
And the PD opportunities will be fascinating as well to see how that changes, and any any sort of planning changes that stimulate building will be fascinating to watch that unfold.
Well, we're running out of time, Mike, but I've got one last question for you. Do you think this is going to get better, or do you think this is going to get worse?
From now?
Yeah.
It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it sounds like I've been generally optimistic on this on this discussion. But I think we are, everyone hates uncertainty. Where there's uncertainty, that's where stuff starts seizing up. Okay. Now we can't rush back. There will be a wave, a second wave, definitely. But we can get the economy ticking, definitely. We, as a club and participants in the club and a sector in property, can really help by being economically productive. We can be right now, cracking on with stuff. Okay, that's our responsibility to do so and to do it safely. And I think that we know a lot more than we did 5 weeks ago on day of lockdown. Day of lockdown, that was a fearful time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of April, no one knew if anyone was going to pay their rent or what, and it wasn't as bad as possibly everybody anticipated it was going to be. At least I don't believe it was. So yeah, I certainly agree with you. I think in many ways it's going to get better. Not for some people who are obviously going to get laid off or whatever, and that's very sad. But it's all about how quickly you can adapt to survive.
And that's the thing. You're absolutely right. That's one thing we don't know yet. Okay, is the two things that will hold back property and hold back a number of things are, firstly, lending opening back up. Okay, which I think will happen because it's not systemic to the financial system. But what's the wider the government debt thing? That will play out. That's decades of playing out. Okay, that's quite, that is quite macro. The micro piece will be around unemployment and what the long-term implications from this is. How quickly does the economy kick back in?
Yeah.
And how entrenched is that unemployment rates? That is probably the biggest question mark at the moment on the overall scenario.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today, I'm afraid, Mike. But I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. It's been good to see you.
Pleasure.
Look forward to having a drink when all this is, at least when the lockdown is lifted.
Very much looking forward to that.
All right.
Maybe twice as much.
Yeah, I'll do my best to catch up. Cheers, Mike. Take care.
Right. Cheers, Matt.